I'm Dixon, Assemblywoman for Assembly District 72, and I'm here today to learn more about the beautiful tide pools and the organisms that we want to protect and the endangered species. The purpose of me talking to you today is to start the conversation about how important it is to protect our beaches, our sea life, our marine life, and realize how beautiful it is. We need to protect it. As a result of my growing awareness of how important it is to protect our coastline, is that I have authored a bill that would recognize the black abalone marine shell as the official state marine shell. So I'm delighted to give visibility and awareness to this rare, endangered marine life. So it's so important that we make awareness for our marine life, our tide pools, our natural environment here, and to protect it.
I'm Carissa Rice with Laguna Ocean Foundation. We're really excited to have you with us today. So we have a lot of our biologists and our tide pool docents that are available to educate the general public about these unique ecosystems and to provide information about our marine protected area, about how to behave in our marine protected area, what to observe, and kind of what they can do to help protect these important ecosystems. So let's go ahead and take a look. All of Laguna Beach is a marine protected area. So we can see things like, hey, it's really important to not remove any shells, any rocks, or any of the organisms here because they need to stay in this unique environment. And all those components have a role here. And we'll look at some of the creatures on why they need the shells or why they need certain rock and substrate, right? To not pick up any of our animals, using our eyes, taking the memories with us rather than a physical object. And that includes turning rocks over because that is someone's home. And just like we wouldn't want to, have someone suddenly come from the sky and flip our house upside down just to see what we're doing. We don't want to do that in the environment as well. And so just really respecting the environment, thinking about what we're bringing in and making sure that we're taking all of that stuff with us as well, leaving our environment more pristine than hopefully we find it. But it should be pretty beautiful right now. So we have, those are your anemones.
Wow.
These ones right here, these are box jeweled clams. We have more of our chitons right here. I did see there's a hermit crab right there. So yeah, there's all sorts of life, and even just these small pools. All the organisms have to be adapted to dealing with it being very dry, being very wet. What happens when it rains? Now they've got fresh water storing in their pools instead of salt water.
Oh.
And again, if I were to reach in with my hand and I had some sort of lotion or something on my skin that could add and change the environment, they're gonna have to now deal with that. And these guys already deal with amazing conditions. The black abalone in particular are one of the only species of abalone that actually exist higher up in our tide pools. A lot of our other species of abalone, our pintos, our reds, our greens, are gonna be much lower in the intertidal or out in the open ocean. Again, big part of our history. Black abalone used to be so prevalent that you actually had to step over them to even get out here. So abalone as juveniles can grow an inch a year, and then that growth rate slows down after a couple of years. So if we saw a black abalone of that size,
That's amazing.
that's a pretty old guy, which we want to keep some of those bigger organisms because they're what's referred to as super spawners. They have figured out how to adapt to these environments, and therefore they're
How
really
often
good.
do you see an abalone up here?
I have never seen a black abalone in our tide pools. As a diver, I do see greens every once in a while out in the open ocean. But abalone, because of actions of people as well as climate change, abalone are susceptible to something known as the Ali effect. The reason they were so abundant prior to the 70s is because of their densities. Okay, you could easily find 1,000 black abalone within a square meter. And then people started to over-harvest them. Again, as the reds started to deplete, people took advantage of how easy they were to find. And it doesn't take a lot of skill, to be honest, to hunt an abalone. It's a snail, okay? Now, they have a lot of protection on them. That shell, right, is very strong. Thickness for thickness, their shells are as strong as Kevlar.
Really?
So they're quite strong. They have this strong muscular foot to clamp down onto the rocks. Again, they have to be beaten up by waves and not be carried away. So the only way to pry an abalone from the rock is to use a crowbar, right? An iron to pull underneath. And so if we were to pull underneath our abalone, that's what it's gonna look like, okay? And we can see it has this strong muscular foot that is going to clamp onto the rocky substrate. This is its head and its mouth, and its kind of sensors to know kind of what's around. It can sense what's in the water and things like that. And then if we were to look at the inside of our abalone, again, we can see that they're pretty much just an eating machine. Okay, they are mostly gut, okay? Like many things in nature, it comes down to food and reproduction, okay? It is all about how much food can they get, and they are herbivores by nature. They're going to graze our red crustose algae. They're gonna enjoy our giant kelp out in our kelp forests. And then once they're getting enough food to actually sustain that strong muscular foot, then they'll think about reproduction. That occurred with abalone. All species of abalone in California have become susceptible to something referred to as withering foot syndrome.
I read about that, yes.
And that's caused by a bacteria. Now we don't know, scientists don't know exactly fully what the trigger is, but this bacteria that all of them have in many of our abalone cause basically gastrointestinal distress, right? They got upset tummies, they weren't eating enough food, and so because they weren't eating enough food, they couldn't sustain that muscular foot, and it would start to wither and die, and they would let go of the rocks, right? And now they flip over easily, they become prey to other things. And with the protection of the black abalone,
Assembly Bill 2504 will recognize the black abalone as the official state seashell of California. The bill is sitting on the governor's desk. Hopefully he will sign it in the next 2 weeks. We'll make a big deal about protecting abalone, and if people see the abalone, don't touch it.
Yeah, and again, such a big part of our history. I mean, I've inherited abalone shells from family members that, sat in their homes as ashtrays or as soap holders for, years and years and years. So they're quite large, and I'm easily going, man, that's a 25-year-old abalone that I got. Over 90 invertebrates can actually live on the shells of any of our abalones.
Like any one of these kind
Yep, so all of these sessile or these stationary creatures.
They're piggybacking.
Yep, can piggyback right off those same pieces there. And they're gonna, again, help to clean up the environment. I mean, I hear stories from other divers all the time sharing how they're finding more abalone out on dives. Historically, things like the Pismo clam and clam digging and all those things.
They all started here.
Used to happen here, but again, these are not particularly difficult creatures to overharvest and take. And so we've done that in conjunction with things
So declaring them an endangered species, has that helped?
That can definitely help. And then again, maintaining and informing the public about areas like Laguna Beach and the marine protected areas and how to behave here so that we can continue to have these things in future generations, so that we can work on restoration, so that scientists have these more kind of pristine living labs to be able to work and monitor in, so that we can hopefully put things into the environment that belong here. Right? It takes 2 minutes to get a fishing license, go out, catch your daily limit. But very few people put things back into the ocean that belong there. Right? We're not talking the plastic pollution and the trash, but things that should be here so that we can help for these environments to continue here.
Well, you
forever.
certainly opened my eyes to the importance of...
Well, thank you so much for visiting, and yeah, these are always great places to come out. There's always new things. Again, it changes with the tide, and so every day is a new adventure out here.
Well, you're certainly well informed. I appreciate your knowledge.
Say to the general public not to overestimate the impact of one. Oftentimes I hear from visitors, well, what's the big deal about taking one shell or one rock? But if we all have that mindset, it's no longer the impact of one, it's the impact of many. And on the flip side, don't overestimate the impact of one. If you see a single piece of trash and you want to pick it up and put it into the trash can, even if you didn't bring it out, that's one less thing out here. And again, that's all going to help in the overall environment because everything is connected. There's so much synergy going on between our ocean, our tide pools, and what occurs on land as well.
Well, that's such an important message. I really appreciate Carissa explaining all this.
We're so glad to have you.
You're an excellent tour guide. We're doing an opening ceremony to the Kelp Fest using the abalone shell, and I was subsequently announcing that I have a bill that's awaiting the governor's signature as we speak. It's on his desk to name the black abalone as the official state Seashell.
Yes, and it's a worthy one. Yes.
Tell me why.
Because the black abalone was abundant. I mean, if we saw this in even the 1920s, it would have been covered with black abalone shells, just all over, because it worked really well with its friends, the mussels and the barnacles and the limpets. And what they did is they kept the water clean and the sand. They were like the vacuum cleaners. But they were also so they had played a really strong part in the ecosystem to keep everything in balance. Because if they weren't doing that work, the crud that would build up from the ocean, the rotting seaweed would change the pH balance. And so they were doing their job. There's some things going on that we could, probably stop, and it causes a lot more life loss, which you can see there's really not very much living on the shore here. So, but also because they were here when the waves came up, it would hit really hard. The black abalone developed a really strong muscle, stronger than the abalone that's lower and deeper, where you have to go diving to see it. And they created I have actually one here in my hand, and here, all these holes, they had many tentacles, so they would hold on to the rock where their little tentacles come out. They had this is where the muscle was, and it got very, very tough. So what that tells me, and what I learned, is that this was not very chewy. It was real tough. So I think what our ancestors did is whenever they did take it, they were using them for bowls. However, they took too much all at once. And so that's why our ancestors for thousands of years just took what they needed. But we, as Americans, we don't know that concept very well. We just take it all. And so it took only less than 300 years for the black abalone to go.
Do we ever see them on the beach?
Not right now. If there is one on the beach right now, we would really like to know where that is.
Really? Well, we do say as part of the bill to protect it, that's all about protecting the black abalone, is if you see it, don't touch it.
Right.
Tell me about the historical or spiritual, cultural aspect of the abalone shell.
Well, the abalone, if you look at it, it's kind of like this beautiful round shape, and we consider this the sacred womb. So it was held that way, and so people use this in ceremony. Remember when you saw me, I had sage burning in my particular shell, because it was the perfect place for it to be. And then also for very important adornments, wearing jewelry like I'm wearing this today. This is
beautiful.
This is like a protective shield that I wear. So this keeps
and your
me
earrings
protected.
are beautiful.
The earrings are more adornments, but there are certain ways that you wear them, and you also make them. So, but this particular, I consider to be a utilitarian bowl. Probably fill these holes with asphaltum, which is a natural tar. And then they had water or soup, or we wish wouldn't drain through. That was the acorn mush they ate. So it was probably the perfect wee wish bowl.
And then you do some tribal ceremonies involving the abalone, because it is a special endangered.
Yes, I have a special abalone that I use to bless people with.
Really?
I hold it up like this, and I just go like this. We could do it with this one. It's a little tiny. I think with the big one that I have, I do that, and everyone just feels really strongly the feeling of it.
And you perpetuate that spiritual connection.
Yes. We teach our young ones. We have almost 1,200 people registered.
Really?
Yeah, and how we determine which is really important, and something that we're really stressing, is that in order to be a member of our tribal nation, we have to have lineal descent from a member of the mission years ago, our ancestors that lived at the mission.
And they have to prove it.
Yes, we have to do genealogy, which is something everybody knows about today, to show that we connect to an original ancestor that was in the mission, because that's the only records we have.
And you have 1,200?
Yeah, we have approximately, it's about maybe 500 of those are under the age of 18. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and they live all over the world, all over the country, all over the world maybe.
Right.
Yeah, so,
but they were initially here, native here.
Basically, Orange County is what we call Orange County today is our traditional homeland. And so our ancestors had villages all the way to the north up to Long Beach, all the way south, almost to Oceanside. There's a beautiful village on Camp Pendleton called Uxmal or Las Flores.
Really?
And then we go, up to the Santa Ana Mountain Range, over, not quite over the hill, but to Temecula around there, Corona, but we share all that territory with the inland tribes. And then, of course, the islands here along the coast.
So your tribe is one of the oldest in California.
Yeah, well, by the records that they have at Camp Pendleton show that we've been here for 16,000 years at
that right?
least. Yeah. There's a lot of archaeological sites where they have found remains, and they know they're from at least 10 to 16,000
Well,
years.
I am so honored to have
Yeah.
met you
Well,
and
thank
to
you.
learn about the history of the black abalone through you and your tribal
Yes.
connection to all of this. I had no idea. I think I mentioned that to you before at the Kelp Festival. I had no idea this tribal significance. I could have assumed it, but it would just really makes my naming of the black abalone as
yes.
a state
Absolutely.
shellfish that much more significant
It's
because
very significant.
so
Thank
I am honored to do this
Yes.
for your people.
Thank you. It means a lot. It really does.
And it means a lot to
People don't
me.
realize that even a shell can be very meaningful.
So when this
You
bill
know.
gets signed, we're going to meet again,
Okay,
and we'll have a
let's meet
little
again.
ceremony to say
Okay.
it is now official.
Yes, that would be great. Can I put a little plug in for Nancy Caruso?
Sure.
Because she's the woman that helped to bring the kelp back to Laguna Beach, which we call Todo Vivo. And we actually have a name for this area of Laguna. It's this whole Laguna area, Todo Vivo.
Well, what did she do to restore the kelp?
Well, she's a scientist, so it
Okay.
does take science. She's an extremely brilliant woman, but I can't believe how she was
And she
able to
lives
do that.
here in.
She lives in Garden Grove, actually. She lives in
Really?
Orange County, and she travels up and down the coast. She has educational schools and on the boat and everything, and it's called getinspired.org. If you want to
We
contribute.
just spread the word.
Yes.
Okay.